I'm going to say a couple things. And they're very simple and they're very straightforward. But from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank certain people. First and foremost, my parents who are here, my mom who was a teacher for 40 years, and my dad who was a labor leader. My girlfriend's here, Ansley. But my parents afforded me every opportunity. Not many people could have run for this board at 20, been its chairman at 25, and want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. With that, obviously, I thank the residents of Sterling Heights for voting for me to put me here, but I want to thank all the commissioners who have allowed me to have this awesome responsibility at such a young age. I know you, I know all of your families, and it's something where I believe relationships matter and people need to work with each other. I don't care your background, your philosophy. The whole reason we're here is to actually get something done. And we might disagree on what that might be or degrees of difference, but our fundamental belief is that we are here to provide a good service for the residents of Macomb County and to protect our 2,500 employees and our retirees. With that, thank you. I would be totally remiss, and I don't appreciate everybody laughing at that misintended joke on the staff over there, because I cannot thank the staff. When you're the chair of this board, you really have an awesome responsibility. Most of the time you're under the spotlight. You're juggling between 14 different proclamations, the agenda changing, people coming in at the last minute. And so obviously we've transitioned and we've had an interesting year. Went through 6 employees after we reorganized this office, and we had everything running on all cylinders. But, you know, talented people move on to different organizations, and they should. So Courtney and Corrine and Andrew, we've built a new team here, 2.0. Michael O'Mara, who started this week, who's just a talented young guy, caring, is going to do great. Crystal Brenner, who came from the clerk's office, who's so talented. She will be a great legislative director. Michael Keys is a legislative aide. Laura Murphy, who is just the sweetest person, who is a great person to organize, to be the face when people walk in, to hear their issues, to answer their phones, to hear their concerns. And Corrine, I think she's done now. I don't think the next board chair will be able to get her back. There won't be a third retirement here. And Scott Smith, who has been our able advisor here. We wouldn't be at the position we're in to fight the fights that Commissioner Vosberg and other people talked about tonight. He is probably one of the best municipal attorneys, and it's not, he is one of the smartest people in the room, but it's not because of that law degree or that practical training. It's because he brings common sense to the table. He can work with anybody in the toughest situations we've had here, and I put anybody toe-to-toe next to him and want to thank him personally for what he's been able to do here. And last but not least, I get a little emotional, Patty Deb. She likes to call herself my work mother. But she has always had my back. She stood behind me 110%. I couldn't do this job as ably, hopefully as ably as I have, without her. She's always been there. I've never had to worry about anything. When you have somebody like that, who is your chief of staff, then you're able to go out there and perform and deliver and execute a game plan. And so, Patty, thank you. The different agencies of the county, of county government, I see that we have certain people here from the Department of Roads. We have Bob and the next director, Brian and Bill. We have John Anderson and John Chapka, the directors, who I've always had to work with on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. And the finance director, who we probably have the closest relationship with. And I couldn't be prouder. One of the best things I think we did here was appoint Steve Schmiegel to be the finance director. He's somebody who's really fit into that role, and I know he didn't want that job at the beginning because there was probably too much politics, and you know, he was somebody who didn't get a lot of airtime, as I would say it up here, because he was behind 2 alpha finance directors, Dave Deagle, the first county executive of Macomb County, and then Pete Provenzano. But he's become somebody who I trust immensely, somebody who does such an able job, and that's really important when you have a finance director that you can trust. Last but not least, obviously this office interacts with the courts and Martha T. Berry and different agencies, community mental health, but really co-equal branches of government. It's the executive branch and the legislative branch. Checks and balances, fundamentals of when you go back to fourth grade civics lessons here. And I want to personally thank Mark Delden, who has been somebody who has been a friend, a confidant, in many ways a mentor. I like to tell him I taught him everything he knows, but secretly he's taught me a few things along the way. But one of the reasons that we've been able to accomplish what we have is because people talk to each other, they work with each other, and at the end of the day, after a tough negotiation, they compromise with each other. There's always a next budget. There's always a next contract. There's always something in the future. And you always have to maintain that, even when times have been heated, things have been very public, as any public office can be. From the bottom of my heart again, Mark, I want to thank you. And so with that, I will close by saying that even though sometimes in this job it's tough, it's all-consuming, it's answering people's questions all the time, even when they've already been answered 5 to 6 times for some commissioners and other staff. But I'm happy to do it. It's been such a privilege for me. For a short time, I consider myself to have an important job. We're all temporary stakeholders here. We all move on. We all are elected in our 2 to 4 year terms. But a couple things that I wrote down when I decided not to run in April, and I think is something that I want to bring along in my future career and hopefully pass along later on, is be a difference maker. If you run for office, get something done. These aren't seats where you just collect a paycheck. Be somebody who's a leader. Pick an issue you're passionate about. And I said this 4 years ago when I became chair, leadership matters and vision's important. You got to know where you're going to take people and where they need to go, and then you try to build consensus to make that happen. Build relationships that last a lifetime. This is hopefully the first part of my career here, and I have several other chapters that are successful. But build relationships that will correlate, regardless of if they're personally beneficial or not to you in a professional sense, but if there's somebody that you can rely on and somebody that knows you and knows your family. And take your job seriously, but not yourself too seriously. And something that I personally probably struggled with a little bit when I began this is that I was always so results-oriented that I didn't care about how it happened or the experience along the way, but the result, to make sure it got past the finish line. Enjoy the ride. The journey is important too. And so with that, I want to thank each and every one of you again. I want to wish you all the best. And I know I've said this line a few times tonight, but all the joy and happiness that life has to offer, professionally, but more importantly, personally. So have a safe and joyous holiday season. And clerk, please call the roll. So good evening and welcome. It's great to see so many people here, friends, family, leaders in our community, to welcome the incoming 2017-2018 Board of Commissioners. My name is Dave Flynn, and I'm privileged to have been the chair of the Macomb County Board of Commissioners for 4 years and sat on this body as a commissioner for almost a decade. In a few moments, our distinguished clerk will administer the oath of office. We're the 4 new commissioners who were elected this year, along with the other members that are here and re-elected, will take that solemn oath of office. They'll swear to uphold the duties as county commissioner of the United States Constitution, the state of Michigan, and the Macomb County Charter. If you're wondering what you got yourself into, there's a few seconds to slip out that side door over there. With that said, prior to 2011, the Board of Commissioners used to be a home rule county. We used to have executive and legislative functions. Once the voters adopted the Macomb County Charter, that split those powers and divided to create checks and balances. Macomb County has nearly 900,000 people. We have over 2,500 active employees and 2,500 retirees. We're an organization that has over 24 departments and agencies with a budget of over $740 million annually. The county is essentially a service provider for the federal and state government. When you look at areas like criminal justice and you see the prosecutor and the sheriff and the juvenile justice center and the courts, and then human services, you see the health department, and you see community mental health and Macomb Action Network, and you see infrastructure below the ground with public works, sewers and drains, and above the ground with the Department of Roads. Those are things that we do here at the county, and we get most of our money from the federal and state government. And this isn't like Washington, or it's not like Lansing, where we fight over political battles of whether we should fund this program or fund that program. What we do here is essentially try to create the most accessible service, the most accessible program in an economical fashion to those who need it most. Back to governance. The Office of County Executive generally runs day-to-day operations, and the board takes care of legislative responsibilities such as policy making, fiduciary oversight, and general hearings of the county. This is not an advisory board, and it's not something where they hand you a rubber stamp when you're elected. The commission is the intersection of county government in so many ways, at the beginning of the process or the end of the process. It's the public's opportunity to weigh in, to offer their opinions, and to have public discourse where people can see what's happening in their government. As we've said, the board reviews contracts, appropriates funds, and reviews the budget. Ordinances, resolutions, and policy making will now be part of your daily lives. Going forward, and I know you will, and we have confidence because we've had a track record of this year, is regardless of the different district, the 13 districts that you represent that have about 65 to 70,000 residents, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're from the north part of the county or the south part of the county, your goal is to make sure that you build consensus. You work amongst each other to create effective public policy. You work to create compromise with the executive branch and the different portions of county government. And so, with that, that's your opportunity to be a game changer, to make a difference in your community. And so, now I'd like to present to you Carmela Saba, the 2018 Board of Commissioners,